Okay, so now we'll be doing the fourth tutorial for Fusion. And this will be the first activity. We'll be making a handlebar with text embossed on it. So if you've ever seen like a motorcycle grip, we'll basically be making that. Okay, so now that we have our file saved, what we'll do is we want to use the revolve tool to basically create a cylinder again. So we'll go and create a new sketch and we'll select the front facing plane. From here, we will go to create, we will get a center rectangle, select the center, and we want to make this, let's see, we'll make the width 25, actually no, we'll do 30 millimeters, yeah, and 125 millimeters. Hit enter. And now we have our sketch. What we want to do, of course, since we are going to revolve it, is to put a center line. And I'll show you what happens if we don't. So let's just say we try to revolve this. So S for our shortcut. Select the revolve tool. If we try and select our middle axis. Oh, I think that broke Fusion. You can see it doesn't like it. So we can't, because this is essentially telling it to revolve into itself. So what we need to do is we'll go back to the sketch by double clicking. L shortcut to create a line over here. We'll select the center, drag it to the other center, and we can leave it at this. We need to make sure this is a construction line, because not a construction line, because we were to make it a construction line, then we have the same problem as before. We essentially need to split the faces, the profiles, so you can select just the one. So I'm going to select Finish Sketch. We'll go back to our Revolve tool. We'll select one of the profiles, doesn't matter which. For our axis, we'll select the middle line that we've created. And now we have our cylinder. So make sure it's new body, one side is fine. We hit OK, and we have our cylinder. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to create the ripped pattern on this handlebar. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to our first sketch. And if we zoom in using the scroll wheel, we can actually create some rectangles, and we're just going to place it somewhere around here for now. And I'm going to make this just any number, maybe 3, just make it a little bit bigger. And this really doesn't need to be any number, but we'll do 6. So with this, we can actually position our rectangle over here. If you want to move it, you can basically double click along one line, and if it's connected, you'll be able to freely move by holding left click and moving. So we just want it to be, let's just say around here. If you need to have a specific dimension, which we will do for the sake of this tutorial, you select the bottom edge as well as the top edge, and now we can put our dimension. In this case, let's just say we want a depth of 1.5 millimeters. Hit enter, and it should automatically dimension that for you. Move this here. So now we have one rectangle. What we need to do now is to repeat this pattern, which, if you can recall, we use which tool or which command? Rectangular pattern, yes. So we're gonna go and select the rectangular pattern, which you can find in the shortcut. Now we're going to, so this is the body one. I selected the wrong one. It's fine. Just go back, select the proper one. Here you can see I can select my objects, and I'm gonna just double click on this to select it all at once. Now what I'm going to do is I will just drag this out, and I'm going to give it a distance of, let's just say, what's 100? We're going to do, let's try 50. Okay, that's too many, so we can see here it's overlapping. Let's just do a few, which is 25, half of that. That looks fine. We'll do 25. And now we've got our rectangular pattern here. What we can do is hit Finish Sketch. And you can see that our sketch by default has been hidden because we use the Revolve tool, which will automatically hide it. If we want to see our sketch again, just go down to Sketches in the browser, show visible, and you can see your sketch like this, like so. So what we're going to do now is we are actually going to, instead of revolving this to cut it, we can actually go back to our Revolve tool, and we'll delete our profile here, select the X. And what we're going to do is just select this profile here, and you can see that Fusion has automatically revolved it as how we want it to be. So we'll hit OK. You can hide the sketch, and now you can see our ripped pattern in the handlebar. Now this looks very thin, and I don't like that. So what I can do if I want to change it is go back into the sketch, and I can actually change this dimension. Now I'm going to delete this dimension for now just to show you, but you can move the dimension and the rest will follow since it's a rectangular pattern. So say I want it to be thicker, the gaps to be smaller, I can just put it in, finish sketch, and you can see now my gaps are a lot larger. So for now I'll leave it like this, no issue. So we have the main grip of our handlebar. What we need to do now is to create the wording essentially. So what we're going to do first is we need a blank area to put our word. We can do this very simply by selecting a face here. And the reason we do this is because this is where we start our grip essentially. So with this face selected, we're going to hit create sketch. Now it's going to show us the rear, of course. But what we can do, and if you can't see this well, you can always shift middle click to drag it. And we're going to look for this line here in the middle, right? We're going to hit P to project, select that line, hit OK. And now, if we go back to the right, you can see that we have our face, the inner circle of our face selected there, or shown, projected essentially. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a line by using the L shortcut. And we'll just put this anywhere. Let's just put it here, and we'll drag it up to this edge. And we'll do the same for the other side, something like this. You can see, I'm not sure you can see, but there's an X there to show that we are connected. If we aren't connected, let's just say I did this by accident. Hit enter. Oops. You can see that our profile is still selected because we don't have a closed profile. But if I were to click this and drag it back, one more thing I forgot to mention is you need to project this as well, the outer circle. Yeah, I'm not sure why this isn't doing that. Hang on. Yeah. Oh, okay, I know why. Because we are basically selecting this face. What we can do is we can just hide the body for a second. And we can see now that this profile is selected. Again, if I were to remove this, then we have a full profile. We need it to be closed off, like this. See? Okay, so with that done, we'll finish sketch. We'll show our body again. And this time, we'll hit the E for extrude. Select that face we just drew. And now we'll drag it down to around here. Any one of these will do, as long as there's enough space. Actually, I want a bit more space. I'll put it down to here. So we have our, we're basically cutting off the ribs. We're going to hit OK. And now you can see that we have a flat area to put our text on. So the first thing we're going to do now also is to shell it so that we can see the inside. And we're going to select shell. I forget where it is. Oh, it might be modify. Yeah, shell over here, or use the shortcut. I'll select one face and I'll give this a thickness of 2 millimeters. As you can see, it's essentially covered over. We'll hit OK. And now we want to do the text. So we're going to go to create sketch and we're going to select the middle plane here. And we're going to introduce you to a new tool, which is the text sketch command. So we're going to press S for shortcut. We're going to type in text. You can see here is the only option. We're going to click on that. And now it's going to give us a little positioning that we can place it on. For now, we're just going to put it somewhere around here. Doesn't really matter. And we're going to click and drag it out. Like so. And now by default, it's just going to show you sample text. And I'll explain a little bit what each of this does later. But for now, we'll just put in anything you want. You could put in your name. You could put in whatever. I'm just going to put handlebar. Okay. And so you can see here in the text, we can select our fonts. There are a few fonts to play around. For now, I'm just going to leave it at the default Arial. We can bold it. We can italicize it. Many different things. For now, I'm going to bold it. And you can see here that my handlebar actually extends past where I want it to be. I need this to be a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is actually decrease the height, which is essentially your font size. For now, let's try 8. That's a little bit too much. Put back to 9. And that seems perfect for me. So using this height, you can essentially change the size of your font. I'm going to, this alignment looks okay, but I'm going to put this more in the middle, by selecting your alignment. And I'm going to hit OK. And finish sketch. So now you can see I've got my text, but if you pan, you can see it's in the middle of my handlebar, which isn't really what I want, right? So I want it to be projected onto this face, essentially. But I don't need to use any fancy sketches. What I can do, let's try first, if we try to extrude, so we press E, and we'll select the text. You can see the profiles are selected. And if I pull it through, you can see, if I change it to join, that my text is now appearing on the top. But you can see that the body actually extends through the middle, which is not what we want. So we can't use an extrude tool. So how do we get our text to extrude only from this face? So there's two ways you could do this. For now, I'll show you the first method, which is the press pull method. So I'm going to hit S, and I'll type in press pull, which is over here. So now they're going to prompt you to select it. You select your text. Okay, so now it's worked. I'm not sure why you shouldn't have to do that, but for start, just select object, select your face, and then you can select the distance. In this case, I'll do 2mm offset, and I'll hit join, and it should be like it should work okay here. Now let's just go back for a second, and let's just say that like before it wasn't working, and you don't want to deal with all that because that must have taken like 5 minutes. Very simply, just extrude it out. We're going to extrude it out all the way. Going to hit join. Actually, join is fine. Hit OK. And what we can do is we can hide the sketch. Yep. So we drew a sketch.
Draw two circles and cut, right?
Yeah. No, we're going to project this circle and this circle, the inner one and the outer one. Hit OK. And as you can see, we don't have a profile, so a very hacky way is just to put a rectangle over it. Hit finish sketch. And now you can see I have a profile plane here. What I can do is I can hit both of these with shift click, extrude, and then just cut it out, like so. I'll just cut it out to there. And if I hit OK, you can see that I basically got the same effect. So really, sometimes Fusion's tools kind of bug out. I honestly have no idea why. But as long as you understand how you can get the desired effect, there are ways to essentially overcome these issues. So I'll undo this since it worked for me. If it didn't, then just do that. Okay, so we're here. So now we have our text. I'm going to hide the sketch. And you can see I want it to be a little bit closer to the text itself. There's a huge gap here. So again, what I can do is I can simply go back to my sketch initially. And what I'll do instead is I'll move my line here a little bit closer. Let's try there. And it's a little bit closer. Let's make it even closer. Somewhere like that. I might have gone a bit too far, but we'll try. Yeah. So let's just say this is fine for me. So we can adjust the sketch. Everything is in the timeline accordingly, so it'll work. And now we have our handlebar with the grip and the name embossed. So while we round off the edge, we'll press F for fillet, select this, and we'll just give it a round edge. Hit OK. That looks okay. And we'll give it a last little flare at the top. Yep. We'll hit left. We'll go to circle, which is or C. Create, let's just do 35.
We're making like a lip.
Yep, we're making a lip. Now we can select just the outer one since we are basing this profile off the face. And we'll just extrude it out a little bit. Here, actually, you know what? I want it in line with this. So I'll select that face. And now I have the example. I'm going to select new body. Hit OK. And here we have our handlebar. If I want to increase this, make this a bit larger, I can always go back to the sketch, increase my dimension by double clicking, and let's just say we want it to be really big, 50. And here we have a much larger one. For now, I'll press Ctrl Z to go back and select this. So here we can go, the reason why I made this a new body is because I want to go into appearances, which is the shortcut A. I'm gonna go down here and I can search, because I know what I want. I'll type in rubber. And you can see here in my library that they give me a few options. There's rubber hard, soft. I'll select hard, drag it over my handlebar grip. And now you have our body not selected because we are changing the appearance by the body. In this case, let's go back to, let's make this a different color. We'll select red. I like aluminum, anodized rough, click and drag, and I have it here. Now, if I want my text also to have this red, what I can do is I can select faces. From the last tutorial, we've gone through this. Select the front faces here. You can see this is quite tedious, which is why, oops. Yep. Select it, drag it over our face. Okay. Give it a second to load. And now we have our handlebar. You can see this has the texture and the appearance that we want it to have. So I'm going to create a new one. You don't have to follow along, but for me, well, actually you can if you want actually, because I'm going to show you the emboss feature, but I'm going to make this a 50mm cylinder. I'll extrude this out, doesn't matter how much. Okay. So if I want to shell this now, right, so let's go to shell. Oops. So let's select shell, and we select that face, right? We'll make it again a 3mm thickness. Hit OK. You can see that on the face we selected it shelled that, but it's not removed this. It's not made it hollow essentially. So it should, if we do it instead like this. Hang on. 3. Okay. Now it gives us a hollow tube. So you have to think of shell like the face from which you carve out every single thing. So imagine a bowl, right? If you look at a bowl, in fact, let's create a very simple bowl here. So we're gonna have a circle, right? And I'm just going to extrude this and give it a taper of 15 degrees. Actually, maybe more, 25. Okay, so this is a very rudimentary bowl, but sort of explains it. If you think about it, how would you make this bowl in real life? You have a solid block of a cone right now. If you wanted to make a bowl, you need to scoop out material from this side of the face. So essentially your shell command here, if we select just this face, is going to scoop out material from there. Let's just give it a 5. And you can see you're scooping out only that face. And once you hit the bottom, you're going to leave it alone because that's the side. You're not scooping that side, are you? However, if you go back to this side here, and by the way, if you see I can't select this face, that's usually because this, if you give it a value, it won't let you select the faces. If I press 0, now I can select the face. So just a little tip, by the way. But if I select this face, so now let's say I select that face and I hide this face. So now I've essentially reversed the process. So we do it this way, 5. Now we've made something like a dog bowl, right? And so if you think about that logic, if we can carve out from this face and the other side gives us similar results, we just have to select both faces and it will give us a hollow object because you're carving away until you're leaving only the walls. So when you use the shell, you have to think of it like you have a spoon and you're literally carving everything until the very edge of the faces that weren't selected. It might take a little time to get your head around it, but as you practice along, you sort of understand. Of course, if you don't want to bother, you can always create a sketch of a circle, extrude it out, and that will also give you a hole. In fact, just as a little tip, you'll do this in future ones, but you can actually create a pipe here. So this is a 3D body. We can essentially create a pipe. Oh yeah, it needs a path. Yeah. So in this case, I will need to create a sketch. That's fine. So again, we do a pipe. And you can see we have a pipe. We can hollow it, and now we have a pipe. We'll go through this in future, but for now, just you can use the basic tools, it's fine. Okay, so let's look at the emboss, and what I can do is I can go back here, delete all features, and it'll give me back to where I was at the start. Again, we are going to shell, just this one side, give it 3, oops, okay. And now again, we're going to do the text in the center. And actually this, I forgot to do it just now, but let's show you a bit about the text. So there is text by default, which is a bounding box. So you'll write your text within a box, or there's text on path. Text on path basically selects a path. So let's just say on this outer edge here, if I click this line, then it's going to follow that line, right? See, so if I were to type Fusion, oops, hang on. Okay, so text. If I select text on path, again, I select this, select Fusion, so it will follow that path essentially.
So it basically wraps around.
Yeah, it wraps around this line, right? I can always I can flip it. So let's just say, let me just type Fusion again. So if I want it to be on the outside this time, I can always flip it here. Placement below the path. You see? Again, I can center line, whatever I want, I can do it essentially. It's also fit to path. This just means it spaces out along the entire distance. Usually you won't do that though. But that's just another thing you can do with Fusion's text command. For now, I'll select bounding box, and actually what you can do is, say, right now I did this, which is just there, but you can actually dimension this. I'll leave it like this for now. I'll go, because again, it's a sketch, right? So I'm going to go to coincident, hit this edge, select that. You can see now I've essentially constrained this line, oops, to this edge, you see? And so now if I were to try and make this center, which I'm going to double click again to access the settings, if I hit center, now it's perfectly centered in my cylinder, right? So again, I'll just leave it as is. I'll make this a little bit bigger, maybe 12, that's fine. Enter, finish sketch. And let's try the emboss tool. Hopefully it works this time. Select my outer face. There we go. Okay. So the difference between the emboss and the press, pull, or extrude is that, and I'm going to do this to exaggerate, but you can see how this is creating sort of a blow up feature, you see? It comes out almost like at an angle, essentially. And that's because it is following the curvature of this cylinder. If I look at it from this direction, you can see that this circle is essentially an offset, right? And so Fusion is going to connect those in a sort of angled way. If you compare it to the extrude or press pull, let's go back here. Select this. We are going to go in the other direction. Again, it's being very finicky. Whatever. We're going to ignore that. Just hit join. Just ignore this. It doesn't matter. But you can see the difference, right? So this will be straight, whereas emboss will come out at an angle. So this is, it depends what your applications are. If you're trying to 3D print something like this, it might be useful to have the angles, but sometimes you might want it to be straight for whatever reason, essentially. So it's really based on your preferences in this case. So as long as you understand the difference between the emboss tool, they do very similar things, embossing, and the press pull, if it works. But the main difference is that the press pull will be straight, the emboss will be at an angle by default. So just keep that in note.